Hello everyone, this is Mark with Vinyl Crush. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I've got tons of records to show, so I need to start making a ton of videos. I've been out traveling a lot, and my most recent travels took me up to visit Mazzy, Norman Maslov. I'll put a link to his channel below. Most of you know who he is, but for those of you who don't, please check him out. He's got a great channel, shows lots of records, really amazing. So I went to visit Mazzy for his birthday, and he had just purchased a collection of about 5,000 records from a friend of his, Coleman, who had passed away. And so he had just brought these home and put them in his garage, and I showed up to wish him happy birthday, and the first thing he said was, "You want to do some crate digging?" And so we started going through boxes. I ended up coming home with a large box of records, and then proceeded to go back again the following week to actually help him go through everything, pull records that he wants to sell first, catalog them on Discogs for him. So I did a bunch of work for him to help out, and also was able to finish going through his collection and sort of pick the stuff I was really interested in. So I came home with a bunch of records and wanted to start showing them. So here we go. The first thing I want to show is the Beatles in mono, the box set. Apparently when he talked about this online, many people asked for it. I think he didn't want to have to ship it. And he was also hoping that he could sell a bunch of his stuff to his friends. So I got lucky, and I got to be the first one to say, I want that. This is everything the Beatles have done in mono on Parlophone. So it's just the UK albums. The US albums have different songs on them, and they released fewer songs on an album so they could collect songs to make another album that doesn't exist in the UK. They also put in the US the singles, the hits, on the records, which they didn't do in the UK. So this is everything on the Parlophone label in mono, starting with Please Please Me, with the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's, Magical Mystery Tour, and the White Album. I think I got them all, and the last two albums they didn't do in mono, so they're not in here. So this is, and I'll show you, for example, here's the White Album. They redid it with the number. I'm not going to do a complete unboxing here because that's been done, I'm sure. They did the original top loading, which is how the first pressing in the UK came out, instead of side loading. It includes the pictures and the poster with the lyrics, and the music sounds incredible. So everything is in here, including all of the singles are the Beatles Mono Masters. Is a 3-record set of all the singles that they had done that weren't on the records in the UK. And this has been released again recently, and I actually bought this as a separate item because I didn't have the box set initially. So amazing set of records. Most of them look like they'd never been played. The book that comes with it that I have here looks like it's never been opened. It's a remarkable find for me, and I was glad to get it. So I could probably just stop right there with the mono box set. That was enough. But no, I have quite a few records that I bought. I'm going to show a sort of a eclectic selection of them that I was happy to find. So the next one I'm going to show you it's actually a Bee Gees album. I'm a fan of the Bee Gees. We are a fan of the Bee Gees in this house. This is an album called Odessa. This came out in 1969. I think it was their third or fourth album. This has a velveteen cover with gold lettering. It's a double album. It is really almost, some people would call it a prog rock album. I would say it's more of a prog-inspired psych rock album. This was not, this sold well, but it wasn't really critically liked until much later. Like more recently, they say that this is one of their better albums. But this is a first US pressing. It's also on Monarch. It's a Monarch pressing, which I think Monarch pressings are some of the best pressings of the albums that are out there. So I love finding those as well. So the Bee Gees Odessa from 1969. The The other one that I want to show you is another Bee Gees album. This is the Bee Gees First. This is not their first album. This one came out, this was their third album. They put out 2 albums that didn't go out internationally. And then they signed with Polydor and Atco and put out, this is their first album that was international, sold through those labels. It is a psych pop album. In fact, the cover was done by Klaus Vormann, who is the same artist who did Rubber Soul. No, Revolver. Sorry, he did Revolver. In fact, one of the songs on here, a number of the songs on here remind me of Beatles songs. And there was one in particular called In My Own Time. And if you listen to that song, the beginning, the guitar riff, and some of the ways the words are sung, tell me if you don't hear a couple of Beatles songs sort of mixed together in that song. I think they really liked Revolver when they put this album together. This also includes the songs To Love Somebody and Every Christian Lion-Hearted Man. And there are some other singles, but this broke the top 10 in every country on the main list. So great album. I love the old Bee Gees stuff. It's the harmonies and the songwriting. These guys were incredible. This is also a first pressing. I'll show you. I love these labels, Atco labels. And this is also a Monarch pressing, they just sound so good. So really happy to get this. Now I'm going to dive into something a little bit heavier. This is a first pressing of the White Stripes, Icky, Thump. I don't have this record on vinyl, much less a first pressing. This is a great album, Icky, Thump. This was their 6th and final studio album. This was, I think, more grown up. You know, they do kind of garage blues, garage rock blues music. This is way more grown up, I think, and yet it's still really natural and fresh sounding at the same time. It's an incredible album. This was mastered by Steve Hoffman, and some of my favorite White Stripes songs are not on this album. They're on other albums, but I think this is my favorite White Stripes album. This album as a whole is really, really good. So this came out in 2007, Icky, Thump by the White Stripes. Really happy to find this. So now we're going from pop, psych, to garage rock and blues to jazz. Coleman has great taste. This is Miles Davis, Miles Ahead. This came out in 1957. This was arranged by Gil Evans. Gil Evans also did sketches in Spain and some other stuff with Miles Davis. This is a first pressing on 6i, Columbia, deep groove. This is in incredible condition. It looks like it's not been played. It's got a few scuffs on it, but it plays beautifully. The cover's in pretty good shape too. This is, this is Miles Davis doing third stream music. This was done in the form of a suite. All the songs are sort of brought together, sort of mixing classical and jazz. So that improvisational sense with this suite sort of organization makes it third stream. It moves slow a lot, and then it also just swings. I mean, Gil Evans, he brings in, there's a whole orchestra, a small orchestra that's playing with him. Paul Chambers on bass and Art Taylor on drums form the rhythm section. And Miles Davis is the only soloist on this album. And it's really beautiful. Love this record. And to find a deep groove 6i Columbia first pressing was just a treat. Thank you, Coleman. We're going to keep jumping genres, going from jazz to reggae. Bob Marley and the Wailers, African Herbsman. This is a comp of songs that Trojan Records put out. He was signed with Trojan initially, and then he signed with Island and was putting out an album with Island Records, and Trojan put out this comp of songs. This is some of the songs on here are songs that he later re-recorded. So these are a little more raw and edgy, and also laid back, yet still immediate. They're really quite interesting. This has like Lively Up Yourself, Trenchtown Rock. Some of these were re-recorded later. This is the first UK pressing of this album on Trojan Records. I love these old labels. And this may be my new favorite Bob Marley album. I've not heard this album before, but I love the old style of how he recorded this. You feel like you're just being pulled into another world on these albums, much more than the more produced albums that were done before. Wow, so I'm still not done genre jumping. The next one I have to show that I picked up from the Coleman collection is the Buena Vista Social Club. This album came out, it was recorded in 1996. I think it came out in 97. This is a Classic Records Qui-X remaster, which is remarkably well done. It sounds really good. And I don't know exactly when this album was reissued, but it is a reissue. Ry Cooder went to Cuba to do a recording gig with a couple of people from Africa, with some musicians that were there, and he got to Cuba and the other musicians couldn't make it. So he and the producer decided to put something together doing Cuban music. So they got some local musicians together and just started recording. So the Buena Vista Social Club, the name of the band, formed in 1996 in the studio for recording this album with Ry Cooder. They took the name from an actual the Buena Vista Social Club that apparently existed in that neighborhood in the 40s, a music club, and they used that. It's traditional form of Cuban music. It's just an incredible record, double album. I think the labels are the same as the original. Classic Records does that, and so are the covers. So I'll just show this. Incredible album. I don't have a copy of this. I've been looking for it. I keep missing out on it. So thank you again, Coleman. Great record. So I have a couple of more records to show from the Coleman collection, and then I'm going to pull some of the records that I purchased for Record Store Day, the first drop, and just run through them really quick because I didn't get a chance to show them for Record Store Day. I was too busy to do a video. So two more records from the Coleman collection, and then I'm going to run through a couple of the Record Store Day purchases that I managed to come across. We're coming back home for this one. I couldn't believe this when I saw this. So this is Johnny Cash with his Hot and Blue guitar. This is the first album Johnny Cash put out. Originally, he went to Sun Records and tried out to be on the label as a gospel singer. And they said, no, gospel doesn't really sell. Come back with something more popular. So he came back a year later and he had the song Cry, 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 which became a huge hit. They released it on a single. Then they did Folsom Prison Blues. Then they did I Walk the Line. And there was one other, I think, that were singles off of this before they actually put the album together and released it in 1957. This is a first pressing of Johnny Cash's first album on Sun Records. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a first pressing of a Sun record before. I was just stunned and happy to come across it. Not that it's an incredibly valuable record, it's just the history of this is remarkable to me. So thank you again, Coleman and Mazzy as well, for giving me the opportunity to go through some of this stuff and see these records. This has, Cry, 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 Remember Me, Doggone Lonesome, I Walk the Line, Folsom Prison Blues, and it sounds great. Really beautiful album. So this next album from the Coleman collection was one that I've been looking for. Any pressing of this everywhere. It's one of those things you dream about finding in a box of records. So this is the Black Album by Prince. So this is not a first pressing. Prince, this came out in 1987, and Prince had put this together. He put a much tougher, funkier record together in order to deal with the criticism, especially from the black community, that he was getting into too much pop music and he was losing his audience. So he put this record together to sort of get that back. for some reason, he decided right when it was going to be released, it had been pressed, a pressing had been run. He decided the album was evil, and he pulled it. And so we could do a whole video on this album alone. There's just so much information about this. It's incredible. Anyway, so it came out. So then they were released on the black market. I think first pressings of this is sold in the last year for like $25,000. This is a reissue. There were a number of unofficial releases that came out between 94 and between 87 and 94. So this is the first limited edition reissue that's official that came out in 94. This is a UK pressing of this album. It's not near as valuable as the original first pressing, but it's still really hard to find and really just blows me away. This album, he put out Love Sexy, which is a good album, and he went right into playing pop music again, and Love Sexy was an incredibly pop album, and he pulled this record. It's dark, it's funky. One of my favorite Prince songs is on this record. It's called Bob George, and it's just a really dark, funny song. It's clearly meant to be humorous, even though it's really dark. If you haven't heard that, you can probably hear it on, one of the streaming places. But anyway, it was just incredibly fun to pull this out of a box. All of these records, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This was like an, oh my frickin' God, this is an amazing record. Really stunned and happy. Thank you, Mazzy, and thank you, Coleman. I'm going to show more records from this collection that I picked up. I want to give you a picture of what was there because he's still selling records. They're all in really good shape. All these records, some of them look like they'd never been played. Please check out Mazzy's channel and see what else he's selling there because great stuff, great stuff. I was going through the crates just going, I can't afford to buy these all. I can't afford to buy these all. I can't afford. Here's one, I got to get it. Okay, it was just astounding. So thank you, Mazzy. Thank you, Coleman. And we're going to show a few more records, so hang on. So I've just been too busy and I didn't get to do a RSD drop 1 or 2. Got a bunch of records, wanted to show some of them just for fun. And we just showed a Prince album, so I'm going to start with Prince, The Truth. This is a first time released on vinyl. This only was out on CD before. It's considered his acoustic album, although he plays acoustic guitar on almost all the songs, but there are some electronic elements on the record. It's not like a unplugged album or something like that. But it is remarkable to hear Prince playing an acoustic guitar, and it just changes the nature of what he's, when you play an acoustic versus an electric, the music feels different. Everything feels different. And I'm a fan of Prince. Prince was brilliant. And so was happy that this came out on vinyl. It sounds really good. There was like 13,000 copies. You can probably still get some. And I'm sure that they're going to probably do a regular release of this after the RSD stuff sells. Great stripped down version of what Prince can do. Really highly recommend it. So this is another Record Store Day first time released on vinyl. This is Heavy Sun. This is Daniel Lanois. He put this together during the COVID shutdown. He wanted to do something upbeat and fun for people. So he put this record together. For those of you who don't know Daniel Lanois, he's produced for U2, for Bob Dylan. He's done lots of his own records. He's just a remarkable person. With this, he wanted to put out something that would lift people's spirits. So there's an organ on here. It's kind of gospel-infused electronic spiritual rock. There's organ, and then over that is 4-part harmonies. It's very gospel-sounding. It's a beautiful album, and I really enjoyed it tremendously. I think he put out 3,500 copies of these, and I think there's still plenty of these left. If you haven't heard it, check it out. So this next album, this is High Pulp. Mutual Attraction Volume 2. Volume 1 came out last year on Record Store Day. I raved about that record. It's basically spiritual psych jazz. This is an 8-piece band out of the Pacific Northwest. They printed, I think, 1,000 copies of this. I think there's still some out there. If you can find one, if you like psych spiritual jazz, this is astounding. They did a cover. This is an EP, by the way, and they cover 3 different tunes from 3 different artists on each album, and they're all artists who do the kind of music that these guys love to do. So really well done. Highly recommend it. If you haven't heard this, check it out. So because, Record Store Day is so long ago, I'm just kind of running through this kind of quickly. So I'm not going to give a ton of information, but I do have Steely Dan. They reissued this, remastered, Two Against Nature, and Everything Must Go. Both great albums, and these remasters sound way better than the originals. This is amazing music. I love Steely Dan. I like their earlier stuff better, up through Gaucho maybe. But this is, nice kind of cool, fun little jazzy kind of pop rock stuff. Great music. Really enjoy this stuff. So this next record was a lucky pull for me. This is one of those records I thought, I'll buy it and see if I like it, because you just don't know. It's Having a Party by Sun Records. This is a limited edition. I think they put out 3,000 of these, and I think there's still some out there. This is an amazing record. This is pretty funky R&B, soul, rockabilly infused with some country and basic rock and roll. It's as if you had a good friend who got a lucky score in a thrift store and came home with a bunch of 45s from Sun Records, original pressings, and sat on it and just went through and played you a 45 of these hits. There's maybe 2 artists you might have heard on here, Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis. The rest of the people I'd never heard the other songs before at all. And they were really great R&B, funky, rockabilly, great stuff, way better than I ever imagined. And they did a reissue with something looks like an original Sun label, which is very nice. This is the original insert that the record came in. So the artwork was well done. This is just a treat to find something like this where you just have no idea what you're going to get and you just go, wow. So enjoying this record a lot. If you haven't heard it, check it out. This is another album that, this is a 50th anniversary reissue of Fela Kuti's Open and Close. Beautiful album. This is what he did. He recorded this with Africa 70. This is when he was developing his own style of music. He called it Afrobeat. It's basically groove-oriented jazz and funk and psych. They printed 7,000 copies of this. I think there's still some out there, but it's incredibly great album. If you like African music, if you like Fela Kuti, this is definitely worth picking up. I was incredibly happy with it. This next album is one of those purchases that I had no idea what the popularity of this was going to be. This is Kenny Dorham, Quiet Kenny. Now, Kenny Dorham has played with a whole bunch of different musicians. He plays with the likes of Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. He later played with Thelonious Monk and the original Jazz Messengers. Remarkable trumpet player. If you were to look up in the dictionary, underrated, his picture would probably show up. He's a very underrated trumpet player. He's really quite good. This is not my favorite of his recordings. This is a great album. This is really popular. It's a little bit, I think I like some of the other stuff he's done better, but it's an incredible recording. If you like the quiet sort of jazz sound, this is on New Jazz, beautiful label. It's a great album. I don't think there are any left. In fact, I think they're going for like $100 on Discogs now, but you can still get them. I don't know how to say this. It's a really good album. I just like some of his other stuff better. So coming to a close on my RSD Drop 1 purchases, the Creation in Stereo. This is a UK RSD release, European release of the Creation in Stereo. There's 1,200 copies of these that were put out. If I Stayed Too Long was a song that caught my ear when I was a kid, and loved that song, but the rest of the music on here is quite good too. Happy to find. They also did a cool cover of the song Cool Jerk on here, which was really, really remarkable. Great album. I also want to show off the labels. The vinyl is clear and the labels are just gorgeous. I love it when they take the time to do something like this. That's just so beautiful. It looks like something from the 60s. It's just beautiful colors, shapes, and design. Really well done. That's all I have for today's video. I'm going to do a second video of the Coleman collection and my second RSD drop, and then I've got still a number of records from the Coleman collection. I'll probably do a third, maybe even a fourth video. These are just amazing. The collection is astounding. If you haven't heard about this, check out Mazzy's channel. Again, the link will be below. He's selling everything now, and I highly recommend checking out. Everything was in really good shape. Most of these had never been played. So thank you, Mazzy. Thank you, Coleman. Love to all of you, and we'll see you again soon.